Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Shadowlands Alpha Roundtable, first aired on the 28th of May 2020. My name is Kexman from Warcraft Radio, and today I am joined by Mango, also from Warcraft Radio, DesMephisto, and Frazley. We talk about the latest news on a cancelled Blizzcon, the leveling content in Shadowlands, and whether or not it's time to make alts a little bit more friendly. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the next episode of the Shadowlands Alpha Roundtable. My name is Kexman from Warcraft Radio, and this week, of course, joined by Mango, also from Warcraft Radio. I'm joined by DesMephisto. You may have seen him on Twitter recently. I'm not sure if you've been living under a rock. You may have seen him using a little article by PC Gamer. And we're also joined by Frazley, the gnomiest of gnomes, I've heard as well. I've heard you are almost the king of gnomes.
Yes, the tallest gnome in Azeroth.
Exactly, the tallest gnome in Azeroth. Now, I suppose, obviously, we're mostly talking about the Shadowlands Alpha Shadowlands Alpha and what's happening, but there's been a news article that's kind of come out in the last 24 hours that I suppose we should probably put a little bit of our attention to, which, of course, is the inevitable but still slightly upsetting news that there is going to be no physical BlizzCon this year.
Yes.
With everything that was going on, we kind of knew it was going to be happening. How do you folks feel about it?
I'm really happy that they're actually not doing it. A physical BlizzCon during what is a pandemic, there's no point in putting lives at risk.
Yeah,
I agree. Totally. Yeah.
I think it actually was a good PR move because Blizzard's saying, hey, we are putting the health of players in front of everything. And every time that I kept thinking about BlizzCon this year, because I had a hotel room ready to go until I called off even before the events, I remember being for opening ceremony, literally rubbing elbows with shoe boots and I think Jared. I'm like, literally, like I could smell people's sweat, and I'm like, I don't want that this year.
So bad.
Yeah, that would not be
so
good.
Bad.
And it's also one of those.
Let's just take a moment to go ahead and address that a lot of people do not bathe at cons.
I'm like, why?
And like, it just there's a pandemic going on. People aren't taking care of themselves. They're not washing their hands. They're not bathing. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
It's one of those where I think the celebration of the community is what BlizzCon's all about. And, don't get me wrong, as much as it's, there's a part of us that wished that there was a way that this could have worked, because BlizzCon is a hell of a celebration of that. But at the same time, a lot of the stuff that they do and a lot of the events that I suppose go on can also translate quite easily to a digital platform, which we know in the statement they've said, we're looking at doing a digital thing. It might not be until early 2021, but at the very least, they're not only, as you said, that they've acknowledged that it's for the safety of everyone, but they've also acknowledged what BlizzCon means to the community, and it's something they don't just want to skip, they want to offer an alternative for.
Yes.
Yeah. And they've already decoupled all the events from BlizzCon. So like Overwatch League, Hearthstone, I believe Hearthstone's still doing one this year with the Masters.
I believe it is, yes.
They are, yeah.
And AWC, MDI, they're still happening, and they're still doing all the stuff just remotely. So the events for the esports are still there. And frankly, other than the Shadowlands launch, I don't think a lot of news would have been this here anyway. So this would have been the first expansion that they're working from home on this, plus all the other projects they're working on, and to then try to cobble together either a virtual or in-person one would be a mistake. And I think, remember the backlash that they got last year on the virtual tickets increase in price?
Yeah.
People would be more angry this year to be like, oh, okay, you're not doing a BlizzCon, but you're also going to charge us for information that you should be giving us for free. I could see the tweets going out on that.
Yeah, you can see it happening. Yeah, and I think it's smart too, and I think most of us would agree that if they're going to be from home anyways, just all of your efforts should be towards making the games that we're going to hopefully enjoy in the future, as opposed to them trying to scramble something together. The effort should be, and I know there's different departments obviously, but I just think it's good to have a unified direction.
Yeah, it does feel as though they might even, depending on how successful this virtual event that they've got planned, that we could even see something where we have alternate years. So we have a physical BlizzCon the one year where we have all these announcements. The next year it's a virtual ticket, they can still do interviews, they can still do small announcements, but obviously you're not going to have Overwatch 2, Diablo 4, you're not going to have that sort of announcement every single year, unless obviously something is happening behind the scenes that we were not aware of. And
Yeah.
I think we can see that moving forward.
It would also avoid a 2018 fiasco where they didn't have enough stuff to really rationalize BlizzCon. I thought 18 was good, but it still had that missing something. And if they can move all the big announcements to every other year, the money people spend to get into BlizzCon will feel much more valid. Because last year, everyone who went, and like it was my first year, we all felt like we got our money's worth out of last year.
Sure,
The
of course,
major
yeah.
issue with 2018 was that everyone was expecting Diablo 4. Like,
Yeah.
there had been a lot of Diablo talk. There was Diablo everything, and then Immortal, like, it ruined everyone's expectations. And I mean, there's definitely a way where Blizzard's going to have to do a bit more talking, because I think 2018 is when we got Overwatch. No, that was this most recent one for Overwatch 2.
Yeah, we got all that.
So Warcraft 3 Reforged, I think, was the major announcement from 18.
Yeah, I think it definitely felt as though, and like I said at the time, you know, I feel as though Immortal wasn't necessarily the worst thing that they could have done. It was more the
Definitely
timing
not.
of it. You know, I
Yep.
think, you know, as you
timing,
said,
yeah.
they didn't have enough to fill it. And the moment you place something like that at the top of your announcement ceremony, you're gonna struggle regardless of whether you're Blizzard or any other games company.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like I was excited for 18 because I got the Mecha Gnomes, but that didn't really need a opening stage keynote announcement.
And with the every other year idea too, if they truly don't have, 'cause some years they may have more, but if they really do the every other year format, they can truly save all those big announcements and then maybe get more involved with some worthy announcements in those other conventions, like in Germany or here or something like that, something that they, or PAX or something like that, and get a little more involved with them, and that's where they can do some kind of BlizzCon-y announcements on those off years, because there will be some years where things line up. You just don't need a big event every year, maybe. And
Yeah.
I don't know their future, so maybe there could be so many announcements that it warrants it, but could work. Yeah.
I think one of the major things is that cons aren't always about announcements. They're about the community experience. And I know a lot of people, they work on their cosplays all year round just so that they can go there and feel like they belong, you know, get awesome compliments on all the hard work they've done, where people can meet up with guildies IRL. BlizzCon offers that, so I feel like it shouldn't always be about the announcements itself, but
point.
how you introduce that, like, that area for people to come together is really going to depend on how you present things. Like, so
Yeah.
with Immortal being the major presentation, it really killed the vibe of community, and it was just like, you know, it makes it seem like this is the highlight, that this is what I paid $200 for, rather than it being the focus on community.
Yeah.
Yep. Good point.
I feel as though they could also do something where it's a case of they could host a BlizzCon where it is, and they could almost say beforehand, you know, look, this is not something where we're going to be announcing a load of new things. You might find we'll have some new demos up for games that are in development. We'll, you know, for example, this year, they could have made a point, if it wasn't the scenario we're in at the moment, where they say, hey, we don't have a whole lot of announcements, but we do have a new demo for Diablo 4. We have a new demo for Overwatch 2. We've got some awesome community stuff coming up. We've got panels where we talk about how we're developing, you know, these new games, what's next for Shadowlands, all this sort of stuff. And they could still focus on the community. So I think definitely kind of what you said does, where it's a case of people, I think, need to start getting away from BlizzCon is an announcement ceremony, whereas in reality it never has been. And I don't think Blizzard themselves see it that way. That it's where they make their announcements, but they've always made a point of saying BlizzCon's about the Blizzard community. It's about everyone coming together.
Yeah, and I made BlizzCon last year. I didn't go to a lot of the panels other than like the opening and the what's next, because I wanted to be with that community, and that was why I was there. And that's why this year I feel I'm going to miss the community, but I'm actually glad for my safety that they're like, it is that community, so we're just not going to do it. Keep everyone safe.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
I had quite a few friends there that were had weak immune systems, and like I was glad to meet them last year. But yeah, I'm glad that they don't have to feel guilty for not going, and we can all feel safe.
Yeah. I think the big thing for, I mean, myself, I think I about the same as, I think I attended the opening ceremony and the What's Next panel, and the rest of it was spent walking around the convention hall with the Warcraft Radio crew, streaming from the, and not only were we looking at the fantastic statues, but it was anybody that had an awesome cosplay, anybody that was doing something that, kind of immediately made us go, okay, that is something interesting. That is, that's something that the community has to see. If someone spent 60 hours working on a costume, you want to show that off to the community. You want, like you said, people coming up and going, that is incredible. Let me have a picture. Let me, speak to you about your process. Everything like that.
I getting to see Little Spark's costume in person. I had seen pictures for years, but getting to see it in person, I was like, wow, that really does show what an amazing work they did. I wish I'd seen Hogger.
One of the incredible things that can actually come from this is when we move to a virtual front, it suddenly becomes so much more inclusive. And it's not just inclusive to, say, people who don't have the finances to travel from, like, Europe all the way over to, California. There's that. But then also, such as myself, as someone that has autism, being able to control my surroundings a bit more and kind of really dictate that, having more virtual options as we move into this can really open up BlizzCon and that community to a group of people who would never have had it before. So
massively.
I'm really looking forward to that.
And I think it's one thing that we kind of touched upon when we were sort of, the one of the things that we were hearing a lot of as we were going around the convention center from people on Twitch, from people, who on Twitter and everything were saying, the virtual ticket's fantastic. The work that Blizzard put into that to obviously, give everyone the panels, and it's professional. It is, really, really good quality in regards to what they're doing and how they have to go around that. But a lot of the comments we were getting were the fact that you're covering what people are doing in the halls, you're talking to people. That is, that is something that Blizzard don't really offer. And again, as you said, there's giving that inclusivity. BlizzCon, like I said, it's not just about what's happening on the panels, what's happening out at the fountain, what's happening around the statues, what's going on in the demo areas, that sort of stuff. That's the thing that I think really ties BlizzCon together.
That's the stuff that gave me FOMO every year I've seen it, then I wanted to be there.
Exactly. So I think it's probably going to be interesting to see how they move forward with this. I think this is a case where their hand may potentially be forced, and we know that today they announced that there's going to be some there's an event on June the 9th. Obviously, we don't know what that is. I mean, there's probably a lot of theories. It could be a release date, it could be announcement of an open beta, anything like that. So again,
I really doubt we'll see an open beta this soon.
I mean, it might not be the release, but maybe an announcement. So maybe they'll say on June the 9th, the beta will be open August.
Sorry, my headphone keeps going in and out.
That's cool.
Yeah, so like if I talk over someone, I'm really sorry. I really think it's going to be a release date. Like I think it's time that we'll probably announce the physical edition as well.
That's not a bad idea, actually.
I would hope so. That'd be nice.
And one thing that you brought up, I've seen people calling for like Scott Johnson to bring like BlizzCon again, or I've seen Seraphis has said that they are talking with the different Calm Before the Storm team. So it is interesting. If we don't get a community event from Blizzard, the community themselves, I'm seeing people already wheels turning in different areas on doing Blizzard events. So it could really be find the tribe that you align with and come together as a community.
Oh, massively. I mean, you think about, we've mentioned BlizzCon is about community. There are more than enough people out there that are involved with the community. You look, Con Before the Storm, Blizz Nerds, all this sort of stuff that, we could potentially turn around and say, okay, as content creators, as a whole group, let's get together and do something for the BlizzCon week. and
Yeah.
give that off to the audience, because whilst Blizzard themselves may not be able to do it, we could do it ourselves.
And really
Absolutely agree.
and involve everybody, because it doesn't even have to be recorded. It can just be we're all together and we're just hanging out for a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's, again, part of it is you are hanging around with friends who you're all in the same boat. Everyone that goes to BlizzCon realistically goes there because they're part of that community. No one ever goes there to, I mean, I wouldn't hope so, but nobody would ever spend all that money to go to BlizzCon to just call everyone nerds. It's not exactly going to happen. So I think probably everyone getting together and there's many options for us that BlizzCon weekend. Loads of options for us. And I think moving, this could almost be, as I said, something that has forced Blizzard's hand. And they might realise that actually it's probably for the best. We just got to wait and see on that one. Wait and see. And I think moving on to a slightly different subject, and I think it's one that we recently found. Des, I know that you discovered it on Twitter, and obviously as somebody who currently holds, I think, the record for the quickest 1 to 120, I believe.
2120, and there is one faster for assisted. And assisted runs where someone does everything for you, but that was done in 8 hours and 44 minutes as a monk. Mine is 11 hours and 36 minutes on live.
So and that's solo as well. That's which is mind blowing. We have seen recently they have somehow, and I don't know how this kind of went under the radar, they've snuck in Chromie time into the alpha, which for those of you that don't know,
she is tiny.
Oh well, yeah, actually it would be easy.
Yeah.
It would be easy to sneak her in. For those of you unaware, Chromie Time is the feature where whenever you hit level 10 after you've gone through Exile's Reach, if you're a new player, you move on to BFA. If you are not a new player, you've done BFA and you have, however many characters at 120, you can choose a single expansion to level through in its entirety from 1 to 50 in the Shadowlands. Is there a particular expansion that A, sticks out to you guys that you really want to be a part of, and B, more question I suppose aimed towards Des as the experienced master in this, which one do you think is going to be the fastest?
Warlords and Warlords.
Actually, that's a good answer. I have had
bonus objectives.
Yeah. I've had so many arguments with people when I say that Warlords was not a bad expansion. I know a lot of people don't like Warlords. I myself, I love the story. I love the zones. I just enjoyed Warlords, which seems to be a rarity these days.
Well, it was.
Yeah. Go ahead, Fraz.
It was the drought and the everyone being in Hellfire Citadel that really soured people on it.
Yeah, I think the end of it is, yeah.
And missing a whole raid tier didn't help. But like the I still maintain, and you and I, Kex, have had this conversation before. Many others have. When you really think about it, or when you really look back, the first several months of that game, everyone was freaking out at how good it was. And aesthetically, and obviously the art and the music's always on point, and the story was great. And just that whole experience of getting through, especially for the first time, it was such a fun journey with that expansion. So it definitely is good. It's just missing a raid tier and having that really long final patch that was kind of, that's what sours people's opinion. But it was a good expansion.
I think we'll probably see because of the leveling experience is from 10 to 50, I think what we're going to see is a lot of people going, actually, Warlords was good because they don't have that missing raid tier to worry about, because they don't have that long span of nothing at the end. It's, they're just self-contained in the story. And I think the same's going to apply to a lot of things. A lot of people seem to hate Mists. The Mists of Pandaria expansion was probably the best expansion they've ever done.
It's my second favorite ever, and I do agree with you that I think Pandaria was their best expansion. But I mean, I'm nostalgic for Wrath, of course.
Who isn't?
So many are. But overwhelmingly, all my buddies, just people that we've talked to about expansions that you're going to level in, overwhelmingly people say they're going to do Pandaria first because they're like, that's the one I missed. because
Yeah.
that is when they're, and a lot of people played it. I mean, it's still like 9 million people were playing it or something at that point, 8 million people, but it was the biggest dip in subs since they had more or less like at a launch, like the biggest dip at a launch that they had so far. Obviously, end patch, the numbers dipped down, but like Pandaria had the lower numbers. People were like, Kung Fu Panda, I don't want to do that. So they just wrote off this whole beautiful expansion and just didn't play. Several people on the Warcraft Radio team just straight up haven't played it before. So, and then others, it was their first game, so they're nostalgic and want to go back. I'm really excited to actually level in a place for more than 5 levels.
Yeah.
And in a place that doesn't have increased leveling, so I can like really like dig in maybe even deeper than I did before when the game was current. So I'm really pumped about that. That would be my first choice for sure.
I think that the one question you immediately went to Warlords for the leveling experience, or for how quick it would be, Des. Is there any particular reason Warlords is going to be the go-to for speed levelers at Chromie time, do you think? Or is it just a case of it's the most streamlined?
So, okay, my mic is. Give me a sec. I'm gonna have to push the talk.
That's cool. That's cool.
All right, there we go. It kept dropping out for some reason, not registering my voice. So Warlords is incredibly streamlined. Between the routes of where you get your quests, you have a very nice kind of just straightforward path. It's this very almost linear aspect. You have treasures. The treasures all give EXP, and then you have bonus objectives. You have interactions with how the world is affected by how you choose your garrison. So you have this constant interaction with the world around you, which already adds a kind of immersive experience. And then we have things like Gorgon. We have the extra experience area from the tavern in Spires of Iraq. So there's a lot of options for leveling. And if we were to look at saying having an assist where someone helps you, you'll be speeding through that content even faster. If Blizzard doesn't change anything, if they don't change the 20% EXP potion, I could easily see 3 hours for 10 to 50 with an assisted run, having someone fly you to bonus objectives, helping kill stuff, etc.
Wow, that's a real quick time. Do you think they will reduce sort of like some of the potions, or do you feel as though at this point, if you're doing Chromie time, realistically you've already experienced it? If you want to do that to get to the 50 and into Shadowlands as quickly as possible, do you feel like you should be allowed to do that, or do you think they should probably wind it back a little bit?
I honestly, so right now, like 11 hours to reach max level feels good, but we also have to keep in mind that if it takes us 5 hours and then 10 hours to go from 50 to 60, that's 15 hours to reach max level. So this 10 to 50 time feels, it's really hard for me to say. Currently, I think it takes about 7 to 9 hours to go from 20 to 110. So yeah, it's about 9 hours to do that. So that reduction is almost by 4 hours or so. Which, and then of course, if we do 3 hours, that's 6 hour reduction, which it's really insane. I hope they don't change a lot of Draenor. The way the expansion is built is by far the best leveling experience in the game. And if they make Warlords feel more tedious by removing a lot of the things that made it great, I feel like it's going to just create a worse experience overall, as leveling right now, even though it's faster, doesn't feel as fun as it does on retail.
Right. And I think I would agree. I can't imagine that they would mess with that too much when they actually have the system in place for real. And they even said they wanted to reduce the amount of time it takes to level by 60 some odd %. So if you're saying it was like 9 hours now, and then maybe it's going to take like 3 or so, that's roughly 60, 70%, give or take.
The 60% was before the 100% XP buff.
Oh,
So with
wow.
the 100% XP buff, we're at 11 hours now.
I
Whereas
see. Okay.
before it was like 17 hours, I think was my fastest time pre 100%.
So you give or take, 8.5, almost 9 hours ish, I guess, with the new leveling system, maybe a little less, maybe
Yeah.
7.5, something like that.
About that, I would imagine.
Which is good.
It does seem as though they kind of want people to, and I think it's slightly different for people that are new to the game. Obviously, they're going to be slower because they're going through BFA, they're experiencing the storyline. One little note that I think it was Mr. GM pointed out, it seems as though if you're leveling through BFA as a new character, you don't actually get Azerite gear, which I don't know whether that was a bug. It could be a bug.
You do. You get Azerite gear. I've done it multiple times. It's not Azerite gear. It's blue items that have an eye level of like 56. So
right.
They're very strong pieces, but they no longer have the Azerite traits. And this is true for both allied races and level 1 races.
Okay.
It's kind of like if you level a character through the expansion right now with heirlooms on.
Right.
They level with you. They're not as powerful as Azerite gear or those blue items because they are inflated for sure. But you keep the chest on for the XP buff. But they don't have Azerite powers. You kind of get that feeling.
Which is a major problem that Blizzard needs to address. One of the things for speed leveling that we have to do is something called heirloom swapping, where we equip higher item level gear that is available because heirlooms for some reason were ruined. I have zero idea why. When I say ruined, the stat availability is really poor compared to a lot of other items. They're closer to like green than they are blue. And so by heirloom swapping, we're able to maintain a high power level to be able to kill content quickly and then switch to heirlooms when we turn in the quests.
That makes sense.
Okay, so it almost seems as though heirlooms they're almost there for the snapshot XP rather than for the continuous XP and also the stats that you gain from them as well.
Yeah, and I really think Blizzard doesn't know what they're doing with heirlooms. I don't know. Like, I feel like there's been such an argument between, oh no, we don't want heirlooms, remove them from the game, or we want heirlooms, but we want to get gear upgrades. And we're kind of left in this place where, like, what even is the point of heirlooms anymore? Like, you can practically, I did this back when heirlooms were first introduced. You level faster in Battle for Azeroth without heirlooms than you do with.
And is that just because of the stats that you gain, the ability to do content?
Power.
Yeah, exactly.
The way the scaling works, it's just it works against you.
I mean, would you say that Chromie Time is almost not necessarily a replacement of heirlooms, but almost like a case of, okay, we understand that heirlooms have kind of, because we were at 120, there's so much gear available, you've got, your artifact weapons in Legion and your Azerite gear in BFA. Now we don't have any of that. It's almost a way for them to say, okay, heirlooms at this point in time don't necessarily work. Let's introduce a different system and see if this works slightly better.
I definitely don't think that's the case. Especially because one of the major issues is there are a ton of quests in this game. And assuming that, say, Shadowlands comes out September, October, November, they're somehow supposed to go through Vanilla, Cataclysm, Outlands, Northrend, Mists of Pandaria, Warlords, Legion should be fine, and rebalance all those quest rewards. There are tons of quests in both Outland, Northrend, Vanilla that have 0 item stats on them. Just 0. Like literally, you can go and do Northrend right now. You can get a belt that's just agility and stamina. And this is all over. This is a wide problem. They would need to readdress when you get weapons. They need to readdress when you get trinkets. And to look at that, the amount of work that would require is so much that it'd just be simpler to keep heirlooms in the game.
Okay, that's actually a really good point. I didn't realize that. Obviously, that we were at this point. I knew that there was always going to be a point where that would be the case, because, like you said, going back and redoing quest rewards for everything would be a massive undertaking. I think we can all agree that realistically, for the amount of time that would take, I think the final result would be negligible if you've got heirlooms in the game. I think it's
Right.
more like...
And I think if you have, and I'm assuming they do, just, you have the bucket of all the quests in any given zones, and I'm sure they have an algorithm of some kind where it's like, rebalance it for these parameters. So take this thing and change it to meet XYZ, whatever it is. I would assume that would work to a degree, and then finely tuned as people maybe beta test those things. That would be how you'd get through it quickly. I know those things exist. I'm not sure what they're doing specifically with it, but that would be my guess of a way they would be dealing with that problem right now.
I'm going to guess priority of resources. They're going to assume if you're doing Chromie time that you're kind of an advanced user and you know what you're going to do. Otherwise, you just be sticking with BFA. So I'm betting they're going to redo BFA and do Shadowlands. It'd be nicer if they redid all the other stuff. Like I've seen interviews where they know there's transmog that they still need to find in these old zones. That's due to something that changed in the game. You can't get transmogs. There's a lot of out there things that Blizzard still needs to work on in their dev.
This is one of the reasons why I actually suspect that Battle for Azeroth might be the fastest leveling if they change Warlords. Just because they're spending so much time on it, making sure item stats are good, the padding that you get, because, again, especially with the Azerite gear, that killing power is significant.
Yeah. I think and this idea legitimately just came to me. Would it be a case of, to help both the heirloom system and the leveling system at the same time, to address this issue where you've got, like you mentioned, killing power versus, your leveling gear? If you are if you are kind of going through the expansions as, you're going through Chromie time, is it also possible to say, okay, you're going through Chromie time, this, at the start of it, you are given an heirloom set of gear that will always level and will have blue quality, at the very least, stats throughout as you level. They don't have the XP increase, but what you then do is, instead of going back and changing all the items, you make it so, as you're leveling through Chromie time with this heirloom set, quests don't give you items, but they do give you extra XP on top of it. So instead of removing this issue, like you said, where you're constantly swapping out heirloom gear for the blues when you're handing in quests, when you're, that sort of stuff, this is instead a case of, this is your leveling set, your heirloom set, you're going to get extra XP, but we don't have to go back and balance all these items. Could you see a system like that working? Or do you think that would probably be a bit...
Honestly, I've thought about this system a lot, so I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, no, this is like something like, yes, I've been thinking about this one a lot. What I would like to see is we remove the XP bonus from heirlooms, and based on the amount of heirlooms that your character can equip, you get a % EXP buff that is applied automatically when you select Chromie time. Then, during that, you can actually get upgrades. Maybe it's based on how many characters you leveled. Maybe it's based on doing like a really hard dungeon. Maybe it's through Torghast, that upgrade the quality of your heirlooms, so that you could have, like, maybe you could go as far as to say that they start off as common quality, then they become green, then blue, then purple. And some of the heirlooms can actually be upgraded as far as to legendary quality, having bonus effects that can alter the way you level. Maybe they give you an additional talent while leveling, something like that. And this right here is, instead of making leveling faster, this is a way to make leveling engaging.
So it almost rewards you the more you're leveling alts. Realistically, if someone's good, like yourself, is, there's, leveling a lot of alts, trying to make sure that, get quickest paths and all that sort of stuff, it's rewarding you for doing that, because that's the sort of content you want to do. If somebody's leveling an occasional alt, someone like myself, I think I've got 2 characters at height at full level, and I'm maybe leveling another one before Shadowlands. I'm not necessarily going to be going, well, I need all that gear. No, you don't, because that is not the content you're doing. It's quick enough, but for someone who's, I imagine it's very similar to someone who's a raider, I suppose, could be, if you're raiding, you're killing bosses, you want to get better gear. If you're someone who enjoys speed leveling and leveling alts, you're leveling a lot of alts, you want to get better gear to help you with leveling those alts.
Yeah, and I think, sorry.
It's okay. Go ahead.
I think this system could potentially make leveling more engaging for the individual as well. Not just myself. I know I have a very, very, very specific interest here, but I think this fixes a lot of how leveling just kind of feels pointless. There's no reward for leveling. There's no engagement. It's unsatisfying in a lot of ways.
And I was kind of, I agree with that, especially if you want to level quickly and have it be more fun. But on the other end of that, I am one of those slight freaks that does enjoy leveling like without heirlooms, just to extend it. Like I treat the leveling as like not an end game goal, but as like I already have plenty of alts, and I do level a lot. Like in Legion, I had a max level of every class. In this expansion, not as much. It's not as very alt friendly, so I think I have like maybe five of them are max level.
BFA alt unfriendly? No,
So
surely not.
I'm really excited for the alt friendliness promises for Shadowlands, but just even from an experience standpoint of, well, if it's going to be decently fast to level anyways, but not too grindy. I can take off the heirlooms and just level without them, and the rewards I get are the rewards I get, and it'll scale up over time. And even if they're not great, I'm good enough where you can overcome those things.
Yeah.
And I'm just really looking forward to doing that with a few expansions, especially on. I play Horde primarily, but I do really enjoy Alliance races too, and so I want to level some alts. Kex is unhappy with me. I want to level some alts for fun and just kind of take my time, maybe on some alternate characters that I'm not worried about max level with yet.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's another side of it that I'm excited for.
I think the one thing that we can probably especially take away from this is we're now in a position where I think that they're at a point with their leveling system when it comes to alts, when it comes to people that wish to speedrun through, there's got to be something there for them. And, I think you make a very good point, Mango, in saying, there are some people that do like to level as is, which is fine. But I think I really like the idea, Des, of having this, almost this setting that you can switch on, where it's like, yes, I'm a speedrunner. Let's, I'm doing Chromie time. Give me this experience boost. Let me level up my heirlooms. Give me something that I can really work towards. Especially if you then,
too. I would do that.
If you could you imagine if they took the and this is like a wild dream. There was recently the article about the guy who had created all these armors for various different classes. Could you imagine if that is what your heritage armor, when you'd fully leveled it up, looked like? So if you saw somebody with that armor, you'd go, okay, that is somebody that has really put the work into leveling alts, really done a good job. I think something like that would be fantastic.
Anything to distinguish you from somebody else when it comes to achievements is a good thing in an RPG. It's because obviously like tier sets aren't the same unless you have mythic, right? Then you go mythic and you go, oh, okay, that's really cool. But anything, titles, upgraded armor, certain tints, like just anything would be to differentiate you would be great.
Right. I like with. So Handclaw is the person who made those absolutely amazing stuff.
Oh yeah.
Well, all right. So part of what makes things rewarding is the reward, right? And for leveling, for a very long time, the reward for leveling has been nothing. There's no point, and that's why a lot of people feel like leveling shouldn't matter anymore. You level, and you're just leveling to get to end game. That's your reward. So what's the point of leveling? So having more systems in place, like the heritage armor, having ways to maybe upgrade the heritage armor or to gain certain things, makes it seem more engaging.
Massively, and I think this is the perfect time for Blizzard to start adding these little things like that. The fact that we've revamped the leveling system, we've had the level squish back down to 60 as the top level in the game, seems as though this is the perfect time for them to add. And I'm obviously I think at this point we're not going to expect sweeping changes to this, but just adding a title, or even even tints for armor is enough to make somebody go, okay, that person means business when it comes to leveling alts. And I think it's the perfect time to add something like that.
Yeah, I agree. That'd be great.
Everyone who had the class order halls, like all of them, I was always in amazement at them because that was an achievement in itself, and it's something I want to go for at some point.
Yeah, exactly. And when you saw people in Mists of Pandaria that had all the challenge armor gear, you knew that person was good at doing the challenge modes. It's, and I think it's time for, especially for something that is as impressive as, managing to speed through the leveling process at such a, it's such a extended, such a good rate. It definitely deserves its own reward. I think, like we said, I think it was I can't remember. I think it was you, Frazley, that said before, if we don't see some form of warrior god named Des, or just something along those lines in Shadowlands, Blizzard are missing something.
Exactly. Yes.
It needs to happen.
I want to go into the Warrior Order Hall in Legion, and instead of having Odin be there, it's DesMephisto that, hey guys, how you doing?
Exactly. That would be amazing. And I suppose, speaking, kind of heading back into Shadowlands and what they need to add, obviously, we don't know whether there's going to be... It seems as though the patches have been... The past couple of weeks, normally it was Wednesday, almost 8 o'clock BST, my time. Servers would go down like clockwork. It's been hit or miss the past couple of weeks. I suppose first for you, Frazley, and then we'll go round. What do you want to see in the next Shadowlands Alpha patch?
I really want to see another zone because I've got to play more Reverend Breath, but that was so cool seeing that. And I think Ardenweald we're all excited for, and it's fun seeing this stuff and being like, wow, and exploring that. Oribos, that city, even as empty, was really cool. And in fact, I wouldn't mind Oribos empty. It'd be kind of nice just to hang out there, be like in my own alternate dimension.
Well, I think the one thing with Oribos that's nice is even if it does get too busy, you run out to the edge and you just look out into that incredible skybox.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And like it's like paint almost.
Yeah, exactly. How about yourself, Mango? What's your what do you want to see in the next patch?
I would, as a leveling guy myself, I would love to see it's probably not going to be that different, but the Horde side of the Exiles Reach, which I thoroughly enjoyed the Alliance version. Love to see what the Horde has. I know it's going to have a different flavor to it. I'm sure it's going to be in the same area, but still really awesome. I want to see that. More customization options getting added in over time would be great for the races. And the music too. Any more music they feel like adding. I am such a WoW music junkie. Oh man, I can't wait.
I mean, I think we can all agree that Exiles Reach was probably the most perfect introduction Blizzard could have done to this game at this point, with it being as old as it is, I suppose, in the grand scheme of things for an MMORPG. I think they absolutely nailed that Exiles Reach.
Yeah, it felt super fresh.
Yeah, and
go ahead, Brad.
And the quests introduce you to the story and the humor of WoW.
Yes, it 100% nailed the tutorial. Absolutely, little handholdy, but absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that they did do those extra challenges, like not terribly hard, but doing that elite bear that it says you need 5 people. You can solo it or get a buddy depending on your class, and you can kind of kite it around, and it forces the player to go, ooh, okay, if I'm in the tutorial area and I'm dying to this thing already, I need to figure out how to beat that.
I think they managed to nail
great.
They managed to nail that it was handholdy to a degree without being patronizing. It was almost as if, we know you've probably done an MMORPG at some point in your time. This is how it works in WoW. And again, I'm really looking forward to the Horde version of that, especially if they've got the voice acting in, which I think the voiceover work for this, from what we've seen so far, we've seen little bits, but the voice acting for this expansion's been phenomenal. And I think the Horde version of Exiles Reach is going to smash that out of the park. Yes. So Des, next patch, what would you like to see?
I think everyone knows exactly what I want to see. And I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Single-minded theory.
Oh man, yes, please.
Yes, as I have been 110% behind you this entire time, and the fact that they've mentioned that they kind of might want to work it in, which would be amazing. And even if they gave me an option, okay, so if they don't want to give me single-minded fury, which I'll be disappointed, but fine if that's the case. If you don't want to give me single-minded fury, let me transmog to one-handed weapons.
Right.
It's simple. It's all I want.
No, it's called arm spec.
No.
No, I'm really.
You're dead to me, Fraz.
I'm really enjoying arms right now. I did actually take the time to level a warrior to 120 and get him geared. And arms is super fun to me. It feels chunky. It feels correct. Fury is obviously super fun, but the speed of it really would feel nice with some one-handers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All I have to
I'm sorry. To finish my thought, I can't imagine they couldn't add, the flip-flopping stats like they do with everything else, like intellect, strength, or agility to strength for all of those weapons. They wouldn't even have to make that many new weapons. They would just flip-flop those stats, and then they'd have to balance it, obviously. But it'd be really fun.
all I have to say is it is a crime that a weapon such as Thunder Fury, which has Fury in it, cannot be used by Fury Warriors.
I know.
That's the best point of all.
Also, I'd like to point out the amount of times as a Tauren I've got a two-handed weapon to drop, and it doesn't normally happen with swords. I will say two-handed swords and maces are 50-50. The amount of times I have a two-handed axe and I look at it in my character model and I go, that is not a two-handed axe. That is a one-hander. Why have you not given me a two-hander axe?
Yep.
And it feels absolutely terrible to have these giant two-handers as an undead. As my rotting flesh, I'm somehow able to hold these two giant two-handers. Like an arms warrior with the two-hander as an undead, it makes sense. But somehow, I have some magical titan, rotten muscle strength, or seeing gnomes, dwarves, it doesn't always look good. And
Yeah.
I know a lot of us who have been playing since vanilla really have attached ourselves to the identity behind single-minded fury.
Oh yeah.
And I can see lower down your damage, but increase the damage per second, and that I think you would give Fury an increased velocity. And I've been meaning to go Fury, and I think that would make me go Fury.
Yeah, single-minded fury is 100% something that I would love to see in the next patch. Whether or not we get it, I don't know. But hopefully, if we can't get single-minded fury, we might be able to get that middle ground of transmogging into one-handers. Give me that and I'd be happy.
It's very likely, especially because now we're going to potentially have the ability to transmog each shoulder separately. How is that going to be in the game and not letting us at least transmog Fury Warrior only, being able to trans two moggers into one-handers?
Yeah, exactly.
To have, it would be great.
I'm the anarchist who says that we should just be able to transmog whatever we want to anything. If I want to be a warrior in cloth gear, just let us do it. Let us do it.
You can't do that. There'd be riots in the streets, Frazley. Let's not go too far.
I would be okay with that, but it had to have restrictions. I.e., you could only transmog two pieces to cloth. So it would open up more options. Imagine if you were a warrior, but you wanted a cloth hood. Something that draped over your head. It opens up some more transmog options while not completely devaluing your class.
Yeah. Okay. That's pretty acceptable. I think that's actually a very, very good thought to close off the roundtable for today. But before we go, Frazley, would you like to tell everyone exactly where they can find you on the wild world that is the interwebs?
Absolutely. You can find me with my puns and all on Twitter at Frazlecastic. My podcast, Frazlecast, where I talk with different people every week. I talked with Des a few weeks ago. It was an awesome time. That's at gnomepodcast.com. And you can find me on Twitch every single day, it feels like, at gnome.live.
Fantastic. And Des, whereabouts can they find you on this crazy ride of the interwebs?
I'm pretty simple. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at DesMephisto.
Fantastic. And Mango, I know yourself and Athelis are currently putting some tweaks to Heart of Azeroth at the moment. But where can they find you on the interwebs if they want to hear more of your luscious, silky smooth voice?
You can find me on my very inactive but should be more active Twitter account at MangoWCR. And yes, Athelis and I are in the process of reforming our show, Heart of Azeroth, into something a bit more entertaining, a little more unique for you guys. It'll be good. I won't put anything off that's not good, so you have nothing to worry about there. And as a final point, at the next patch coming out, I just had to get this in here before the end of the roundtable. Blizzard, with their little trolley putting blue eyes on Void Elves and Blood Elves, so now the Alliance and the Horde get High Elves of some form. So they're like, you both get it. No one gets claim to it.
Yep, no one gets claim to it.
I like that, especially in the RP community. It really will let people be who they want to be.
Oh, the RP community is going to explode with that.
I'm happy for them, but now hopefully we'll get ogres.
Oh yes!
Give us ogres, Blizzard. Please give us ogres. Well, that's it for today's show, but thank you for joining us here on Warcraft Radio with the Shadowlands Alpha Roundtable. If you've enjoyed the show, make sure you're clicking the bell and the subscribe button here on YouTube, and you can always catch us on Twitter at Warcraft Radio. My name has been Kexman, and I will see you next time.